Hello, Archie Dunlop here with Talking Astrology with Archie. And in this video, I'm going to have a quick look at the week starting on Monday, February the 24th, 2025. It is indeed going to be a quick video. I'm going to start off by just looking at the main events of the week starting on Monday, February the 24th. And then I want to look at the horoscope of Kash Patel, the new director of the FBI. I'm not going to spend too long looking at his chart. I don't have a time of birth. I don't really have a great deal to say about him, but he is an important person, and it's the final one, I think, of Trump's controversial picks. We had RFK being confirmed as health secretary, and Tulsi Gabbard being confirmed in charge of sort of national intelligence, and now we've got Kash Patel, who got through the Senate and now he has been sworn in. And I want to finish by looking at the I Ching, doing an I Ching reading for the week starting on Monday, February the 24th. So let's look at the positions of the planets at the beginning of the week. So here they are. These are the start positions, and you can see that the Sun is now in Pisces. And if you look at Mars, there is no longer an R next to it. So on Monday, possibly even Sunday evening, if you're in the Americas, Mars went stationary direct, and Mars is now moving forward. And I'm going to be talking a lot more about Mars in my next video, where I consider Monday. But Mars going stationary direct, it is helpful. We can start to take the initiative. Traditionally, it's a time when we can maybe consider taking assertive action, whether it's taking, I don't know, that could be legal, it could be military, but whatever we want to do, maybe anything connected with Mars. Now we can get going on it, provided, of course, it's the right thing to do, it's a moral thing to do, and no one gets hurt. Now, also on Monday, we've got, Monday the 24th, we've got Mercury semi-square Pluto. Not a particularly major aspect, but Mercury 45 degrees aspect from 45 degrees from Pluto. It's a dynamic connection. And so that Mercury semi-square Pluto may be about the struggle to articulate ourselves. Pluto is a planet that can either hide or intensify. It kind of depends on the person to an extent. So some of us may feel that we really do have to let the world know what we feel and what we think. And in the process, we might be quite manipulative. On the other hand, we might be of a view that we can't express ourselves, that Pluto is holding us back. If we were to say what was on our mind, we might get judged, we might get threatened, and we might, in certain cases, feel that the best approach is to hide everything we believe, hide our thoughts, because it's just too dangerous to be open. I'm not telling you what is the right approach, but in general, it's best to be open, isn't it? And if you want to be devious or manipulative, I suppose with Mercury semi-square Pluto you can, and it might be a good idea to use your persuasive skills in new ways with that Mercury semi-square Pluto. Then on Tuesday, Mercury makes another aspect, and you could say it's all part of the same thing. So Mercury makes a semi-square with Pluto, and then it moves on to make a conjunction with Saturn. Conjunction of Mercury conjunct Saturn is, I would have said, quite an important aspect. And in a way, there's a similar message from what I just said, Mercury semi-square Pluto. Mercury conjunct Saturn may encourage us to keep quiet. And we might feel that we have to, be very careful what we say. And there might even be a view that there's no point. That can be a problem with Mercury conjunct Saturn. it can influence our cognitions in a negative way. We might be of the view that there's no point. People aren't going to get it. People aren't going to understand. And Mercury can be about our state of mind and what we believe is possible. So with Mercury conjunct Saturn, there can be a certain amount of pessimism. I don't want to go further from that and to talk about depression. There's no reason why Mercury conjunct Saturn should be about depression. It is a short-lived aspect. Let's not take it too seriously. Though on the positive side, Mercury conjunct Saturn is a very good time to be organizing our ideas, making sure that we say the right things, and we don't speak out of turn, and we do the research. And with Mercury conjunct Saturn, it might be best to actually say nothing, at least to begin with, because we're trying to work things out. And then Mercury carries on. Thursday the 27th, Mercury moves on to make a sextile with Uranus, kind of very different energy. Mercury conjunct Saturn, moving to Mercury sextile Uranus. Now there are things we want to say. There are things we feel we can say. We've got over the Mercury conjunct Saturn, and now is a chance to tell the world what we think, and we can be quite exciting about it. And then last day of February, the 28th, we've got a new moon, new lunar cycle, and that is something to be excited about. And the negativity of a waning moon is now over. The moon will be waxing, and I will certainly be talking in detail about this new moon and what it means. Finally, over the weekend, Venus goes retrograde. So it goes retrograde. It's already slowing down. 10, 11 Aries, and Venus going retrograde. It's not ideal. Venus does weaken. I mean, it's not in a terribly weak position because of that mutual reception by exaltation with the Sun, but still, Venus is in Aries, in its detriment. It is going retrograde, and so we perhaps have to be careful about, while Venus is going retrograde, about anything to do with things that look good, beauty. When Venus is going retrograde, it might, for example, not be a good idea to do sort of cosmetic surgery that is an elective nature. The kind of surgery that doesn't really matter when it's done. So that might not be a good idea. Spending a lot of money on beautiful things with Venus retrograde, because when Venus goes direct, we might change our minds. And so that Venus retrograde, something I will be talking about over the next week. So I don't want to go into too much detail, because this video, at least this part of this video, is really a preview. And I now want to look at the horoscope of Kash Patel. Now, Kash Patel, he's the new director of the FBI, and he's not someone I know very much about. A lot of people are really, really bothered by it, particularly Democrats. He is a Trump loyalist, and of course that is a feature of Trump's cabinet picks. He's chosen people who he feels will be loyal to him. And you could say, given his experience in his first presidency, you can understand why he did feel a certain sense of betrayal, that the people he appointed were not giving him a sufficient respect. So that might be, from his point of view, why he did it, why he's chosen this particular team. So here's Kash Patel's chart. I believe he was born in Garden City, New York. I don't have a time of birth for him, so there's perhaps limits to what I can say. Though he is quite an over-the-top person. He's got Sun in Pisces, opposition Jupiter, opposition Mars, Mars-Jupiter conjunction in Virgo. Does he know when to stop? I don't think he does know when to stop. And once he gets something into his head, he will just keep pursuing it. And maybe that is Sun in Pisces. And also Mars-Jupiter conjunction. Mars-Jupiter conjunction in Virgo, you can imagine that Mars-Jupiter conjunction in Virgo. It endlessly turns things over, like perhaps sort of a rodent ripping up bits of paper, just going round and round and round and tearing things up, and this endless activity. And sometimes that activity might be a little bit pointless, but there's certainly something always going on. And so Sun opposition Jupiter opposition Mars does kind of define him, even though I don't have a time of birth. But he is really really full of himself, and he'll be doing things perhaps just for the sake of it. Though I have no view on Kash Patel, absolutely no view at all. But I do think that Sun opposition Jupiter, Sun opposition Mars could potentially be quite dangerous, because Mars Jupiter conjunctions, they don't know when to stop, and he could just overdo it. So that is something to consider. And it has been said that he's into conspiracy theories. Because I've just been reading the progressive, mainstream media. I haven't been looking at sort of supportive YouTube videos. So I've been sort of reading things, very briefly. So you can see how Sun opposition Jupiter, Sun opposition Mars might be into conspiracy theories. And once they get something into their head, they don't know when to stop. And he has a moon in Cancer. You could say moon in Cancer is quite loyal. We don't know exactly where in Cancer his moon is, but it's certainly there. And that might represent his loyalty to his president. And the moon is trine the sun. Very nice moon trine sun. We don't know exactly where his moon is. I mean, it could be anywhere between 2 Cancer and 14 Cancer, but its trine aspect of the sun is certainly helping him in terms of mental balance. It helps to stabilize him, I would have said. It kind of represents a little bit of an antidote to that Sun opposition Jupiter, Sun opposition Mars. And so that's certainly a helpful aspect. He's got Mercury in Pisces. I mean, I'm sure he's a very clever person, but Mercury in Pisces is not the best place for Mercury, and Mercury is opposition Saturn. And so Mercury opposition Saturn, he can be harsh in his language. That is one way in which Mercury opposition Saturn can work, and things can go wrong for him. In fact, I'm not convinced that the next few months are necessarily going to be especially easy for him. And this brings me on to what is happening to Kash Patel right now. Mercury, of course, that Mercury is square Neptune. So Mercury square Neptune, strange ideas, and he may get distracted. So in terms of the transits, so let's just look at the transits that Kash Patel is experiencing. Well, I'll do the transits based on his swearing in. I don't know exactly what time he was sworn in, but it was sometime on Friday the 21st. So so here is his chart in the middle, transits on the outer wheel, and he was coming up to his birthday. So he's got a birthday coming up on Tuesday. Tuesday he's going to be 40. What's that? He's 45. So he's quite young, and so that's happening over the next few days. And then there is Saturn. Now, Saturn at the moment is 1948 Pisces. So Saturn is very soon going to be conjunct his Mercury. So Saturn is getting closer to his Mercury. So Saturn hitting your Mercury is going to be a time when you do feel a little bit negative. And he's got Mercury-Saturn opposition in his natal chart anyway. So he's going to have Saturn opposition Saturn. This is this generic aspect everyone gets in their mid-40s. It's sort of halfway between the two Saturn returns. The Saturn return at 29, the Saturn return at, 58 or something. It's halfway there. It's this very, very sort of midlife aspect, Saturn opposition Saturn. But Mercury is tied up with it. And I just think that very soon, when he gets into this new job, he may realize what he's taken on. And of course, he's going to be the target for attacks left, right, and center. I think it's going to be very tough for him. I mean, I know he's very happy he's been confirmed and sworn in, but with Saturn about to hit his Mercury, I mean, I don't know how he's going to respond to it. I mean, he's got to be very focused and very disciplined. Can he do that with that Mars-Jupiter conjunction? And he could lash out. And that might be his response. And of course, he does have Mars-Jupiter conjunction in his chart, so that's another reason why we might find him lashing out. And yeah, I don't think it's easy for him. And this new responsibility is not necessarily going to sit well. And I feel that a little bit negative about this appointment, but I don't have an accurate time of birth, and of course I haven't really considered Kash Patel as much as perhaps I should have done. I just wanted to just quickly put out something on him, as he's just been confirmed and sworn in. And there's also the question of his solar arc directions. So he's 45, coming up to 45, and so if we move all his planets 45 degrees, do we find anything interesting? So here is a natal chart in the middle, solar arc directions on the outer wheel, Pluto. Solar arc directed Pluto, is at 6 degrees 12 Sagittarius. He has his Pluto at 21 Sagittarius, so Pluto is coming up to a solar arc directed Pluto is coming up to a semi-square of itself. That happens when you're 45. When you're approximately 45, in terms of your solar arc directions, everything is 45 degrees from everything else, obviously. And of course, 45 degrees is a dynamic aspect. Things can happen, when you hit 45. And an example, if you're in the UK and you've got a long memory, or you're above a certain age, you might remember Jeffrey Archer in the 1980s, when there was this issue with in terms of Jeffrey Archer and this supposed prostitute, and if I remember rightly, and there was a libel case, and which Jeffrey Archer won, and then some years later, I think it was a libel case, and then the libel case years and years later was reversed, and Jeffrey Archer ended up in prison. But that happened when he was 45, and his solar arc directions at the time were exactly 45 degrees. And likewise here. And so Pluto is exactly 45 degrees from itself at 6 degrees 12 Sagittarius, and it's making a square to his Sun. That's a very power-orientated aspect. And so in Kash Patel's natal chart, he has a Sun sesquiquadrate Pluto, very much into power. And that is something that motivates him. And so Pluto square the Sun, just as he becomes director of the FBI, kind of fits, doesn't it? But the power issue shouldn't be discounted. It's all about service, and he said he wants to be of service to his country. But there is the quest for power in his horoscope. I think that is very real. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's certainly something that, as far as I'm concerned, is really very real. And his progressed Sun, so this is kind of interesting, because he's got his progressed Pluto, his solar arc directed Pluto, square his Sun, and he has got his solar arc directed Sun coming up to the opposition of his Pluto. So it's a really Sun-Pluto time for him. Might not seem obvious when you looked at his natal chart, but when you look at the solar arc directions, the quest for power and control is really important for him at the moment. And I'm sure I'll be looking at his chart in the near future again. So that's Kash Patel. Sorry I'm rather brief about him, but I think there are some points that are quite important. Those Sun-Pluto solar arc directions really do strike me as being powerful. So now I want to look at the I Ching, and I want to consider what the week is going to be like for those watching the I Ching section of this video. If you don't want to have a forecast, you don't have to have a forecast. You can stop watching the video. This I Ching forecast only applies for people who are actually watching it. So I asked the question, what is the week starting on Monday, February the 24th, 2025 going to be like for those watching the I Ching section of this video? And the first hexagram I got was hexagram 35. Now it's locked. Now in past videos I've divided this I Ching section into I Ching reading into sections. I've gone sort of for general, money, career and relationships, but I'm not going to do it this time round. And one reason I'm not going to do it is because this hexagram is locked. It doesn't move. There are no moving lines. And I think that to divide it up into 4 sections is really making more of something than it really should get. There's not a lot to say here. And so we have this hexagram progress. And if you want to look at the hexagram itself, you have got the top 3 lines, you represent the sun, a very fiery principle. And the bottom 3 lines are sort of very passive. The Wilhelm translation of the I Ching talks about it as the earth. And so the sun is trying to make its impact felt on a rather corrupted earth, perhaps. I mean, that's one way of looking at it. And it's tough to begin with, but it is progress. And it's really telling us that whatever's important to us over the week, we can make good progress. It's going to work. But we shouldn't think that we're going to get an immediate result. It's going to be slow. And it will take time before we really are able to make an impact. But we can make an impact. Whatever is of interest to us. So if you're concerned about money and career and status and making progress in this world, when sure, you're going to make progress. It's not necessarily going to be dramatic progress. In fact, it probably won't be dramatic progress because there are no moving lines. There's no dynamism here. It's just progress without anything underpinning it. So don't feel that you're going to reach any destinations this week. And from a social perspective, though, the I Ching does talk about 3 audiences in a single day. I mean, this is a hexagram representing a week, but what does it mean to have three audiences in a single day, or maybe in this case a single week? It means people are noticing us. Whether it's at work, in our business, in relationships, we are getting attention. And if there's someone you want to talk to, or perhaps you're trying to get an interview, then with this hexagram progress, it looks as if you can make the connection and get the interview or get the audience you're looking for. Maybe not this week, but maybe this week is about doing the preparations, but you are getting noticed. It might not always feel like that you're getting noticed, but it does really seem that you can get noticed. And your efforts to get on with a person or an organization are going to grind forward. You might not see much, It might feel as if you're wasting your time. And don't forget, over the coming week, there is a conjunction between Mercury and Saturn. And the problem with Mercury conjunct Saturn is it might give you the impression that nothing is happening, that there is no point, that you're wasting your time. But don't fall for this. And this hexagram progress is telling you, don't worry. Even if you feel there's no response, you're being ignored, it's not actually true. You are making good progress. And to begin with, you don't necessarily need any attention. It's enough to do it for yourself. But in the end, I think you will get that attention. And certainly if you're looking for an interview, there's no reason, why you can't get it. In fact, if you take the I Ching literally, there may be 3 interviews. And in terms of anything to do with other people, there may be a 3ness to the week. You should be looking at contacts with 3 different people, or 3 different interviews, 3 different organizations, 3 different people taking notice of you. So that might be a theme. Now, we don't have any moving lines, and because we don't have any moving lines, it might be a good idea to look at the nuclear hexagram. Remember, the nuclear hexagram isn't the forecast, it's what is underlying the forecast. And the nuclear hexagram for progress, if we knock out the top and the bottom lines, the nuclear hexagram is hexagram number 39, obstruction. And so that's probably what we're coming into the week with. As you watch this video, as you watch me, there might be a certain feeling that you're not getting what you want. Something is blocking your progress. And you might actually have quite a negative view of a week ahead. And maybe that's connected with the fact that Mars is going stationary direct. Mars has been retrograde since the beginning of December. It just might feel endless. Nothing is happening. There's no progress, and you just feel obstructed. And that's what you're coming into the week with. And so if you have those negative feelings as you come into the week, regardless of what it is, it could be work, it might be a relationship that isn't going anywhere, or someone treating you badly, or there might be a sort of a financial aspect to it. You're trying to sort yourself out financially, obstruction, you're not getting any help, you're not getting any support, you may have less money than you feel you need, but it does underlie the hexagram progress, and that's what this week is all about. And financially you can make progress, and if you're needing help financially for whatever reason, don't feel that the universe is ignoring you, because again, we're talking about 3 audiences. That might not literally be 3 audiences, but someone is paying attention to your needs. So with this hexagram progress, whatever your concerns are, whether it is career, business, money, relationships, whatever it is, then I believe that at the end of a week, your situation is going to be a lot better than at the beginning of a week. I'm not saying it's going to be a dramatic week. In fact, I don't think it is going to be a dramatic week because we have no moving lines. But still, things are moving, and this may align with the fact that Mars is going stationary direct. Mars comes to a standstill right at the beginning of a week, and Mars is about us as assertive beings. And so Mars goes stationary, and then over the course of a week it slowly starts to move forward, and that represents progress, but it's very slow, and that's why we don't get any moving lines. And that's it. I told you it was going to be a short video. In fact, it looks as if it's going to be only half an hour. So maybe that's a good thing. Maybe you're sick of me. But anyway, thanks very much for watching. Do have a good week. If you enjoyed this video, I'd be very grateful if you were to like it. If you're not subscribed, I'd be super grateful if you were to subscribe. And if you want to buy me a coffee, there is a link in the description. And I will talk to you again very soon.